Welcome back to the channel where we expose hypocrisy, defend our Constitution, and fight for the truth mainstream media refuses to touch. If you believe in faith, family, freedom, and the rule of law, you're in the right place. Now today, we're diving into a fiery Senate confirmation hearing that reveals everything that's wrong with how the radical left treats the Constitution. We're talking about a nominee, Mr. Tong, who was grilled for daring to call himself an originalist, someone who actually respects what the Constitution says, not what the woke mob wishes it said. This hearing wasn't just about legal theory. It was a full-blown ideological witch hunt. The left wants judges to pledge allegiance, not to the Constitution, but to their progressive agenda. And if you resist, you get smeared, cornered, and labeled as dangerous. Absolutely outrageous.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent the following senators be permitted to speak prior to the scheduled votes. Durbin for up to 15 minutes, Cotton for up to 5 minutes, Petty Murray for up to 5 minutes, and Mark Warner for up to 5 minutes.
Without objection.
Mr. President, from time to time I come to the floor to discuss political prisoners jailed by some of the world's worst regimes. I've often been joined in that effort to secure their release by colleagues on both sides of the aisle, including then Senator and now Secretary of State Marco Rubio. You see, despite periods of retreat on the global stage, the United States is still being seen as a beacon of hope for those who want freedom and democracy. And this American voice has always enjoyed broad bipartisan support. President Reagan certainly understood this when he famously told the Soviets, "Tear down this wall," at the Brandenburg Gate. The late John McCain understood this when he joined thousands of Ukrainians aspiring for freedom on Maidan Square. President Trump's special envoy, Keith Kellogg, understood this when he recently secured the release of several Belarusian political prisoners. And my former Senate colleague from Maryland, Ben Cardin, understood this when he passed the bipartisan Global Magnitsky Act. Many times those released from gulags overseas as a result of pressure from this chamber have even visited me here in Washington. And they note how important it is to be remembered despite their isolation. So today, I want to mention just a few cases that deserve the attention of this Senate. Let me start with the United Arab Emirates. If you follow soccer or football, depending on your choice of the name of the sport, you'll see Emirates across the uniforms of some of the most famous Premier League teams. When you think of the Emirates, you think of those teams and you wonder about the airline, but you may not think twice about human rights. The United Arab Emirates, were one of that nation's top human rights defenders, Ahmed Mansour, has been imprisoned for 8 years. Mansour is considered one of the last major human rights voices in the Emirates, one tragically being held at times in solitary confinement, separated from his family. He was arrested under the guise that his social media posts advocating for human rights threatened social harmony. Despite dismal conditions of his incarceration, he remained steadfast in his commitment to human rights, even conducting multiple hunger strikes in protest of his jail conditions, the same conditions he spoke out against before his detention. Recently, his outrageous 15-year sentence was upheld on appeal. We have strong ties and a shared interest with the UAE, but its continued involvement in the horrific Sudanese civil war and incarceration of Mr. Mansour complicate that relationship. I appeal to the UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan to show compassion and allow Mr. Mansour's release on humanitarian grounds. And to those at the United Arab Emirates Embassy here in Washington, if you are listening to my voice, understand this. We're expecting a positive response from Mr. Mansour, and we're expecting it soon. If you ignore this entreaty, believe me, many of us will remember. Next on the list is Azerbaijan.
So let's start with the Emoluments Clause. The senator tries to play gotcha by asking if a president accepting a gift like a plane or even 100 camels from a foreign leader violates the Constitution. Tong rightfully refuses to speculate, citing judicial ethics. But instead of respecting that, the senator accuses him of dodging. So let me get this straight. A judge Trying to stay neutral is a problem now? Only in leftist land. Then came the classic trap. Obergefell v. Hodges and Lawrence v. Texas. The senator wants a soundbite. He wants Mr. Tong to say those cases were rightly decided. But Tong, again sticking to judicial ethics, refuses to weigh in. He follows precedent, like any judge should, but that's not enough for the radical left. No, he must agree with their worldview, or else. But when Tong says Loving v. Virginia was rightly decided, because he's in an interracial marriage himself, the senator praises him. So it's okay to express personal agreement when it aligns with leftist values. But if you don't, you're suddenly situational and dangerous. That's not justice. That's a political loyalty test. And then came the biggest red flag, Moore v. Harper. This case was about the independent state legislature theory, which the left hates, because it gives power back to the states and the people. Senator tries to trap Tong again, asking if he agrees with the Supreme Court's rejection of that theory. Tong again says it's binding precedent, but won't be baited into giving a partisan answer. Why? Because he's a judge, not a pundit. But the left doesn't want judges. They want activists in robes. The senator then spins a wild hypothetical about absentee ballots and elections being overturned, completely fear-mongering, by the way, and tries to paint Mr. Tong as someone who'd help overthrow democracy. I'm saying that no one wants elections overturned. But we do want election integrity. And this scare tactic is just another way to intimidate constitutionalists off the bench.
In 2023, anti-corruption researcher and advocate Dr. Gubad Ibadoglu and his wife were forcibly dragged from their vehicle and severely beaten. He was taken to a prison well known for its torture, where he was denied medication and legal representation. What crime did he commit? Investigating and writing on the rampant corruption stemming from Azerbaijan's oil and gas industry. While he was eventually placed under house arrest in April 2024, he has still been denied a trial, legal representation, access to adequate medical care, and his family continues to suffer harassment. He is one of the many wrongfully detained individuals in Azerbaijan who should be released. If the Azerbaijan embassy is watching this presentation, we are begging you, do something to give this man a break and release him from prison. We will be watching and hope you do. Next is Tunisia, one of the most promising nations to emerge from the Arab Spring that sadly has seen President Said consolidate power, stifle defense by arresting political opponents and critics. One such case is Sonia Damani, a prominent Tunisian lawyer, political commentator who was arrested in May 2024 for her radio and television commentary. She faces 5 separate legal proceedings and an additional 10 years on pending charges. Her sister, Ramla, was also sentenced in absentia to 2 years in prison for advocating for her sister's case on social media. Ms. Damani has endured appalling prison conditions, including sexual assault and denial of basic medical care. I urge President Said, release her on humanitarian charges and drop any remaining charges, including those against her sister. If you're watching this presentation from the Embassy of Tunisia, believe me, we are begging you to act on this quickly, quickly. Show that you heard this. Show that you understand the severity of your decision, and understand that those of us in Congress and in the Senate will be watching carefully to see your response. Lastly, 2 cases in Guatemala. Cases new President Arevalo inherited and has bravely tried to solve. The troubling jailing of journalist Jose Ruben Zamora and legal harassment of anti-corruption prosecutor Virginia La Parra. Their incarceration occurred amid multiple efforts to derail the peaceful transition of power to President Arevalo last year. Both were eventually released from prison to house arrest, but Mr. Zamora has now been sent back to prison, and Mrs. La Parra continues to face baseless legal harassment from holdovers from the previous regime. Both deserve full release and dropping of remaining charges. If the Embassy of Guatemala is following my statement, please respond, and quickly, to give these 2 people relief. We'll be watching carefully and hope that you do. Mr. President, what we do here matters around the world. for the large and small battles occurring for freedom and democracy. My friend and jailed Russian dissident, Vladimir Karamurza, wrote the following from his Russian gulag a few years ago, and I quote him: "The prisoner's worst nightmare is the thought of being forgotten. I always knew how true those words were." And Zamora Mirza Karamurza wrote, "and how important were international campaigns of solidarity with prisoners of conscience. I now feel it with my own skin. So let me remind Ahmad, Gubad, Sonia, Jose Rubin, and Virginia, you are not forgotten." Today, as I deliver these remarks, members of the families of some of these people are in the gallery. Don't give up hope. I will continue to be that voice to remind the world of the incarceration and treatment of those that you love. We need to be a beacon of hope in the United States. This is a demonstration, and we are begging these countries that are involved in these incarcerations and treatment to change their approach completely and give these people the freedom that they deserve. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Let me be clear, folks. What we witnessed in that hearing wasn't oversight. It was ideological bullying. A man who believes in the Constitution, respects precedent, and follows the law was painted as a threat by a senator who clearly wants only one kind of judge, the kind that bows to leftist orthodoxy. This is why we must stay vigilant. The left is trying to reshape the judiciary into a political weapon, and any judge who won't play ball, they're branded, blocked, or destroyed. But we're not falling for it. If you believe in the Constitution, if you believe judges should interpret the law, not rewrite it, if you're tired of the hypocrisy, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the truth. Drop a comment. Do you think judges should stick to the Constitution or bend to the political mob? Stay strong, stay free, and God bless America.